Hi, this is Marty Schupak from tballamerica.com. And we're going to have a quick tip to follow right on the website about throwing. I just want to thank everyone for the great feedback on the segment I did on creativity in your backyard. And I just want to add a couple of more ideas. And keep in mind, when I say creativity in your backyard, if you are in the inner city in any sort of city environment, 99% of the drills that I do, you could do against the wall. I remember when I was young going out to Brooklyn, and I've spoken about this before, to visit my grandparents. Behind their apartment is an alleyway where my brothers and I would spend hours playing ball. So you cannot say to yourself, I can't do it because of where I live. I hear that all the time. When I do clinics, I hear things like, oh, people in my area, they're not the same, or we can't do certain things here. It's 100% false. You have to be a little more creative, maybe in certain situations, but every drill I'm showing you and every concept you could do, and it will benefit your kids and it will benefit you as parents. Because remember, we want to spend as much time as we can with our kids. One of the things I did when I was younger, coaching my two boys and my daughter, I wanted to set up a batting net, a hitting net in the backyard. At the time, I couldn't afford a $150, $200 net. So I came up with an idea where I used a tarp. I got it at a home center and I devised my own technique. Now, this is a piece of the tarp. This is just a corner. I'm showing you this because you want to have the rings like this. They're in every corner and they're in the outside of the tarp too, going around on its edge. And what I did is I bought a tarp. I think it was, my first one was 10 by 14. I bought 4 bicycle hooks. Each of these bicycle hooks, I would put 2 on top, 2 on the bottom of 2 trees. Okay, this won't do anything for the trees if you're concerned about the environment. And then what I did is I got 4 bungee cords. I hooked one end on the bicycle hook. I'd either wrap it around or I'd stretch it. And then I put it on the corner of the tarp, just like this, if you could see, and I'm going to cover my face. I did that for all 4 corners. My kids and I spent hours hitting wiffle balls or soft covered balls or rag balls, which I'll show you in a second, either off a tee or doing a toss drill. We created games with that. It's very cheap. It'll cost you under $20. I'm not that handy, so if I could do it, anybody could do it. Also, I devised the same thing under my deck using the poles, and it works just as well. So that's something creative you could do. And when you do it with your son or daughter, because again, the time spent with them making things is very valuable and it'll resonate in their heads forever and ever. And when they're parents, they'll do the same thing. As parents, you know, if you have money, you go out and buy anything you want. I'm of the opinion is if you create it with your kids, it has a lot more meaning. Another thing, and I just mentioned, is making the rag ball. I've gone over this a few times. And if you take a rag, you could go down to one of the home centers and buy a 10-pound box of rags for like $7 or $8. And what I do is I would roll it up or tie a knot, start wrapping around the masking tape. And the final product would be something like this, where we do the toss drill, we'd hit off a tee, and we'd create games with it. Another thing that I did with that is I took a piece of rope, nylon rope, and I extended it from my deck. And what I did is I created the rag ball on the rope. I would tie the knot while it's on the rope. Then I would wrap the masking tape around it. On each end of the rope, if you see, I have 1 knot on the bottom and 1 knot on top. I extended from the pole, and my son would spend hours just hitting the ball. And he learned to steady the rope after he hit it with the bat. Okay. Now, I've done this for a number of years. I had parents tell me that they've done it with very, very thin wire, so it doesn't sway as much. I get a little nervous when I hear things like wire and things like that. I like doing it with nylon rope. But my suggestion is anything I show you, if you could do it better and even cheaper, by all means do it. Okay. I don't get royalties on anything like that. Um, we're going to follow this on the website, tballamerica.com, continue with throwing. And one of the things I want to point out, when you're teaching throw in a concept that young kids, 5 or 6, it's not going to really absorb in their heads, but you don't want the player's elbow to really go too far below the shoulder. You want to kind of keep it close to 90 degrees. Of course, 4 and 5-year-old kids have no idea what 90 degrees are, but you can keep pointing out when they're throwing that their elbow should be right around the same level as their shoulder. As you continue with your coaching and your kids are getting older, in baseball, you'll see that pitchers, when they begin to tire in a game, they will lower their elbow. And I have noticed that when they do that, the tendency of the balls, there'll be high balls outside the strike zone. So this is a concept that young kids might not understand, but it's a good thing to mention to them. And it's a good thing for a number of reasons. First of all, you're making your assistant coaches aware of it. You're making parents, if they're observing practices, aware of it. And this will stick in their minds that you know what you're doing. And if you love coaching, they'll go out of the way to try to get their kids on your team as the years go on. If you want to email me, you could email me at greenrewind@gmail.com. That's the color green, rewind, REWIND @gmail.com. For tballamerica.com, this has been Marty Schupak.